Hi-Tek production.
Coming out the Midwest, it's like a dream to make it and be accepted. And once people realize that you got something, then we put it on them even more. I mean, it means a lot to me to be able to get that heard, to show people I can go from a West Coast sound and still hit it the right way. You know what I'm saying? A New York sound, all of it's good music though. It's not reaching like, oh, I'm just doing it purposely. It's just a natural Hi-Tek sound. Young chameleon, adapt to any circumstance. You know what I'm saying? That's the Midwest sound.
But anyway, I thought y'all knew DJ Hi-Tek. Don't stop. The more emotion I put into it, the harder I rock.
Don't get me started, I can go on for days.
No question. Class now is in session.
LA, the big eagle has landed. The #1 co-signer, Don Cannon. I am here for another episode of BackTrak. Listen, this is one of the most masterful, the most elite. I call him Mr. Miyagi, DJ Hi-Tek, Hi-Tek. This is the episode y'all been waiting on. We are here. The Natty to LA to ATL. It don't get no better than that, man. ShopTomorrow.com, get all the flavors. We got all the new hats up there and the new socks. And make sure you like and subscribe now. You know what it is. BackTrak, Hi-Tek, Don Cannon. I walk it like I talk it. I got this saying, man, history repeats itself. And I'm here with one of the guys, the most masterful, impeccable. Everybody looks up to this guy, man. We're definitely at the goat farm in LA with the real goat. I'm Don Cannon, but I ain't the goat. It's the goat.
Salute, man.
This is an episode that everybody wanted to see, man. Like, we got endless people asking. They call you the Godfather. I'm gonna call you the Goat Father. For all the people that came up, a lot of influential producers of our time, they all looked up to you. You crafted a lot of sound, and I can't go out and say, man, you got some of maybe my top 10 beats of all time.
Wow.
Of all time.
Man.
Most of them was on your album. I know Sun God, Round and Round, G-Unit, the intro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Best Friend. So I got a story. Best Friend by 50 Cent and G-Unit is the first song where I met my wife. You know what I mean?
Word.
If I was your best friend,
Yeah.
I met her at that time. You know what I mean? When I heard that song, I was like, damn, I'm gonna remember this for the rest of my life. And this motherfucker produced it.
Nah, that's killer, man.
What's up, bro?
Appreciate you coming through, you know what I'm saying? I'm just still at it.
Yeah, we was just talking about, we had that long-ass conversation, some hours, about you, leaving out the Natty and coming to LA and just, getting in the mix and shaking hands with people again, because a lot of people actually still need you for their projects.
Man, that's a blessing, because you hear it from the best, humble me coming out the Natty, it's just following God's word, you know what I mean? Like, keep telling me, man, like, get it before you turn 50, Get it before you turn half 100, you know what I'm saying? So that's been my goal, man, just to, be well-rounded. Always been that type of dude, just try to balance family life with the business and still have that love for the music in general, like just that hobby.
Yeah.
The hobby of, when we was kids, we just had so much time on our hands.
Yeah, bro, it was all hobby.
You know
what I mean? When it turned into the business, then you had to shape up, you know what I mean? Get your priorities in order, learn how to maintain.
Yeah, and we get ourselves into a lot of things when you make money. You start investing and you may end up falling in love with something else, like, real estate, anything.
Yeah, I ain't learned that till I got older. My 20s, I blew every penny I had, bro. Every piece of
Likewise.
that I was going to get. I bought every fly piece of clothing. I went on every date. I bought the cars, crashed them, picked up new ones.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Bought all the equipment. Oh, yeah, you want the SP? I'm going to get the SP. You want I'm going to get that. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely ran through there. So, like, when the young kids be coming to me like, bro, this, that, and the third, I was like, man, just live your life. If you want to run through your money, go ahead. I hit my head. Just don't think about it. I'd rather y'all not go to jail. But if you're getting a check, and you're making beats and you're seeing a nice little residual, live your life, bro. Because that's, the money always return, but you got to go out there and, and get inspiration and turn into the GOAT that you want to be. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. I agree. I was told the same thing by the best of them, Spend it, have fun, but,
Don't spend a lot.
Yeah, you just gotta watch what you invest. Like they say, more money, more problems. So you gotta watch what you spend on. But you know, ultimately, you know, just have fun. You know.
That's right. For the people out there that don't know, you're from
Yeah.
Cincinnati. Tell them about that.
Yeah, born and raised Cincinnati, Ohio, man. Home of the funk, really.
Yeah.
You know,
Funk.
I'm right there. You know, I was born into it, really.
That's right.
You know, it's Boosie Collins and Isley Brothers.
Yep.
Still around, still active. You know, I still get a lot of motivation from them. But you know, I started early, man. You know, Cincinnati had a huge hip hop scene early in the '80s.
Yep.
I just came in '82, got zapped by Planet Rock by Africa Bambaataa. And ain't changed since. You know what I mean? That was my
How
thing.
old you were that about? 8, 9?
I was like, how old are you in the first grade?
5.
Like 6. Yeah, I was like
Yeah.
6,
Yeah.
7 years
6.
old.
Okay.
Yeah, so hearing that and seeing cats break dance, and I just never stopped. You know, hip hop just in general, it just zapped me, man. It's like, yeah, it's definitely like a spirit.
Bro, shit,
You
tell me
know,
all about that. It's the bug that everybody talks
It's like
about.
we all talk about this. We got the same language, you know,
Yup.
so across the world.
Yeah. Was your parents into music?
Yeah, my pops, he had a band called the Italians, and they was a 60 band, 60s, 70s, you know, before I was born, and he pretty much, you know, did his thing. Him and my uncle, you know, they had a band. It was crazy. Actually, pops, the Italians. I'm not, you know, you're familiar with 24 Karat Black.
Of course.
So the 24 Karat Black was originally the Italians.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, then that's some real history.
Yeah. So I was born into it, you know.
Yeah. Most people don't know that you were a DJ, so, you know, we talk the same language, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Most people don't know it's DJ Hi-Tek first, you know what I'm saying? And the reason I mention that is because we also share a certain quality, like we're producer, DJ. I rapped early. I was trash, but I rapped early, but we one of the few that can actually be great in so many spaces. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most people call themselves a DJ but can't scratch, or a producer and not really good at beats but really good at scratching. You know,
Yeah.
it's so hard to come out of DJing and get into producing because you either gonna be good at one, you're good at both. I'm good at both.
Yes, sir.
So when I heard some of them records and I heard you scratching, I'm like, oh, okay, DJ Premier,
Yeah.
Hi-Tek, Canon. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, bro, I got to be that good on both sides. Like,
Right.
Pharrell was a DJ, Chad was a DJ, a lot of people was a DJ, but they're a little bit more better in a certain world than they are in the other. And you did it both. Did you start DJing at a young age? Did you start midway in high school? Where'd you start?
I started like honestly, like I'm gonna say, like my official scratching lesson, I was about 7. And my homie had he had an old turntable. When we was breaking, his uncle was a DJ. He used to provide us our records. So when we do talent shows and shit, we would get his records. But he showed me how to do that run scratch, the run. But I was like 7 then, you know, and MC Shadi, yeah, that was what's his name, DJ Action.
Yep.
So DJ Action, that scratch he was doing, I forget it, with his action. So we used to do that on the turntable back when MC Shadi came out.
Yeah.
We had the vinyl. So, you know, as time went on, I really, you know, couldn't afford our own turntable. So anything I can get my hands on, I would, you know, get a little to bar turntable somebody, you know. That was my thing. That was my first love originally was, you know, DJing. So I finally got myself a pair of Gemini turntables.
Everybody had the same joint.
Had the Gemini with the realistic mixer.
Realistic Radio Shack.
Yeah, Radio Shack. Yeah.
Yep.
Had the Radio Shack mixer and put 2 and 2 together. So that's what I started off doing, just mixing at grandma's crib, pulling the records. Found the 24 Karat Black record.
Family.
She had a nice
thing.
Yeah, start with the fam. So DJing was the thing, and pause mixing. So it was pause mixing on the tape deck.
I always tell people about that too. That's
Yeah,
how I started my first beats.
Yeah, I was doing the pause mixing and making my own mixtapes. And I had a lot of mentors, man, in the hood that just, you know, shout out to my man Jay Fresh and Ravi T, older guy that took me under their wing and, you know, just showed me, you know.
Yeah. When you bought your first turntables, how old were you?
12, I think.
12.
Yeah.
Where'd you hustle the money up to get them?
Told moms, this Christmas I want a set of turntables. She was like, well, I can't afford both of them. So I got moms to buy one, got pops to buy the other one. So moms bought the mixer. I took her to Radio Shack, like, yo, that's the one. That's the mixer I need. And this the Gemini I need right here, you know. But she bought one and pops bought the other.
That's hard.
Yeah.
I got a similar story. I was hooping, about 12 years old, and I was drinking a Powerade while I was hooping. My heart started skipping. I passed out in the court at St. Joe's. They called my mom and was like, yo, your son passed out. We think something's going on with his heart, electrical system, and we might have to take him to the hospital. She zoomed from work all the way to come get me in a cab because I think our car got blocked into a space and she couldn't come in. In Philly, they got this where they stack the cars up.
Damn.
So she just hopped in a cab, came and got me. I got in the cab. Whole time I'm just passing out. She took me to the hospital. They checked me out. They said I was good just as long as I get some aspirin. But to make the long story short, she was so afraid that something was wrong with me. She was like, I don't want you to play basketball no more. That stuff you do in your room, let's go and get you some equipment.
Right,
She bought me 2 turntables and a mixer so I could stay in the house so I wouldn't have those issues no more.
Wow.
Ain't that crazy?
That's crazy.
So I had the Gemini mixer because the realistic, my uncle stole it and did some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, he stole my shit.
We all had
I had the Gemini was the 8-second sampler and then the belt drive turntables, and she would always come in like, you all right? I'm like, I'm good. I ain't leaving. I'm staying here. I got back into the basketball later, but we were around the same age, but I was rapping. Were you rapping at the time too?
I was. So I would from, like I said, I've been in it forever, but just trying to, whatever I can do, borrow a drum machine here, get a little, had this one little Mickey Mouse type of turntable I used to try to scratch on. Then I had the Casio SK5, had 2-second sample time on it.
That was that joint right there.
And man, it's just, so when I finally got a hold of a 60, and even before that, man, I was trying to, MPC 60, my bad, the MPC 60. I would always try to write raps to my beats. You know what I'm saying? I was always writing. Honestly, I regret, because with anything, practice make perfect. You know what I'm saying?
That's facts.
And it's always in me, but to always commend any lyricist, anybody that can rap forever, that take a lot of practice. It's just like making beats, DJing, practice make perfect. That's probably my simplest advice for any. Just practice, nigga.
Facts. You gonna catch one.
Just practice, but I would always write raps to my beats, man. Yeah.
They say it's important, especially when we were young. And I know when I was young, they say as we're coming up, we have training wheels. I had training wheels when it came to DJ Premier. I looked up to him. That's the person that I wanted to be. When I first saw Mass Appeal, I thought that was the greatest thing I ever saw because he was scratching, and I felt like he was scratching on one side. I was handicapped, so I was scratching. You know what I mean? And when I think it was maybe Jukebox, the first time I ever heard Mass Appeal, the video come, and he was like, honey's going like fast. It was like,
Mass Appeal.
I caught the bug. So I'm just like, oh, snap. Then I started just listening to everything he was making, and I had a training wheel. So basically, I was copying everything because I was 12, 13. Did you have somebody you had training wheels with?
Yeah.
That you watched it was like, yo, that's who I'm patting my career up for.
Wow. Man, there's so many. There's so many, especially being in the Midwest. Like I said, I had mentors that was
already there.
Shout out to my man Greg who let me borrow the MPC 60. But my man Jay Fresh, this nigga, he was cold at everything since breaking days. Nigga spin on his head for 3 hours. He just was good, everything he touched. And he had the Elisa's HR-16.
That was that shit.
But he was so cold at programming and sequencing. And he just taught me a lot. But that was my first, his scratching was crazy. His thing was dope. But, and then from there, of course, is, DJ Premier and Pete Rock, Diamond D, man, Jazzy Jeff, of course, Jam Master Jay. Watching, I just was, B Street, what's his brother name? What's Lee brother name?
Oh, fucking, yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, Lee, just engulfed in it, man. You know what I mean? Just everybody. I'm influenced by everything and everybody, especially just being in the Midwest. I think we got a little bit of everything, you know,
Yeah.
and just not having people in our city that was, you know, so to say, reachable, accessible, made it that much tougher. Like you grew up in Philly.
Yep.
I mean, you had like, you know, you got people to look up to. You can be like, man, Jazzy Jeff is from,
Facts.
you know, you had DJ Miz,
Yeah.
Frisco and Miz, and
Yeah.
those
Cash Money.
Cash Money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we didn't have nobody.
Y'all had some people.
Yeah,
y'all had some
they,
people.
They just
they was
left.
going back and forth to New York.
Yeah. We had some people. They, you know, they wasn't around town. They wasn't accessible like that.
Or they was the real musicians. We was technical musicians.
Oh yeah, the OGs left.
Yeah. You know, in Philly, we had Gamble and Huff. I wanted to jump into Ohio and what the actual music scene was. A lot of greats. Tech Jr. over here.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, you coming to the Natty to learn. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame musicians that came out Cincinnati. Ohio in general, you know what I'm saying? But mostly Cincinnati got a groove. It's funk. Tell me about the influences that had on you and moving forward in hip hop, like how funk kind of got into the Eric Sermon wave and you know what I mean, and EP&Ds of the game. What did that mean for you? I know growing up there, I would have loved to have that. Like I didn't get a chance to see Gamble and Huff. But I met their sons later.
Right.
What was that like in Ohio?
Man, you know, I would always hear coming up, when I first started really getting it, when I got my turntables right, I actually had one of Boosie Collins, one of his group members lived right behind me.
Wow.
Gary Cooper, Mudbone.
Well,
he was the one that sung on "I'd Rather Be With You." That's like it's one of his main hot falsetto.
Okay.
So that was his daughter. We was cool friends. She the one that got me hip to NWA. So she already knew the connection between NWA and Boosie. You know what I'm saying? So, but it was almost like a myth. It really wasn't a community of me being, as young as I was, it was kind of like a myth. Like, damn, Boosie is from my city.
Facts.
You know, so I kind of knew the history. You know, even with my pops, he kind of hid it a little bit. He didn't really express how deep he was into the music. And my uncle would tell me, you know, a little bit. But coming up in Cincinnati, I kind of learned along the way. So once I got a little older and really started discovering myself and sound, so to say, that's when I really kind of started really to do the full history. You know, I didn't really know coming up as a kid, I really understand the depth of it. I kind of knew, like, okay, Isley Brothers is from here, but I didn't really understand how deep it really was, you know what I'm saying, until I started making music myself and I realized, like, where I got it from, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I wanted to debunk a little something because they used to say that, first of all, did your family grow up in the church?
Somewhat, not really. Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have the problem of the secular vision. And that's what was happening with Boosie. I used to hear a lot of people talk about in that era that Boosie Collins was the lead to that because of the conversation he had. It wasn't super vulgar, but I'd rather be with you. Like, them joints was like, you know, playing a fence a little bit.
Right.
And I knew that, you know, I had that similar feel because my family was church, but we had Billy Paul and all them guys starting to get into it. It was going into that world, and it was like, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to ask you if there was any problem with you listening to certain music growing up as a kid, or were they keeping you out like, hey, no rap in the house or whatever like that?
You know what, my mom's, man, she was super cool. You know, she was, now don't get me wrong, some joints that she'll be like, hey, you hear what they said? Matter of fact, was the UTFO song, Master Baby. I'm bumping that shit, like, I'm bumping Master Baby. She like, we played it like 3 times. She like, what the fuck they saying? Like, she's like, turn that shit off. I ain't even know what we just was vibing, you know what I'm saying? So, but other than that, she always supported, from even, like I said, all the way from breaking days. Like, she was really youthful.
That was dope.
And Pops, if anything, like, Pops was, you know, he was kind of not around in those some of the days, you know what I mean, when I was really getting into it, you know what I mean? So, but musically, it was just always embraced, you know.
Right.
And Moms she was so youthful, she just enjoyed supporting it, you know what I mean? And I could tell she was just listening from a distance. Because now that I look back at her, I'm like, man, I had to the homemade woofers and the hookup and just banging all night. And she just let me do my thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, I never really had no problem with, you know what I mean, being held back from music like that.
I got held back sometimes.
Yeah, she embraced it fully, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talk about loyal all the time, especially in the rap game, like having loyal friends and respect for each other.
Yeah.
One of the things that, I'm starting a new segment. It's called Live and Die Hip Hop. And in Live and Die Hip Hop, there's two things on each end of the spectrum. For example, in my world, living for hip hop and dying for hip hop. I went on tour, the G-Unit tour at one point in my career.
Yeah.
I was in Jacksonville and I almost died because a fight broke out, but it was in the name of hip hop. I did all this touring, all these things of hip hop. On the living side, I thought I was juicing them and I was stealing records. You know what I'm saying? Do you have those spectrum moments on the live side and the die side of hip hop?
Well, I was producer for a group called Mood out of Cincinnati. They got a record deal. This was in '96. I produced a record that got them the deal, a song called Hustle on the Side, right? So we all celebrated and shit. And so they like, we're going to drive up to New York. So, we get fucked up, man. We just get partying, kicking it. We did all kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
I ain't going to put it on camera, but we was wild.
It was young. It was back.
Yeah, it was back in the day. We drove to New York. 10-hour drive, we up for like 2 days straight. They go sign the deal. We up, we hallucinating, having a ball. But coming back, make a long story short, on the way back, we take a turns driving. We're in a '96 Lexus. Shout out to Lexus, man, because Lexus I really feel like saved our life. But I ended up falling asleep on the wheel.
Wow.
But when I fell asleep, I hit the median and woke up. But my homie, he panicked. And, as I'm coming out, he grabbed the wheel on the passenger side. And we just like spent out. Went over to the side, hit a hill, flipped over and everything. Windows busted. We didn't have seatbelts on or nothing. And we all survived.
In the name of hip hop.
Yeah, and MPC 60 was in the trunk.
What did it get fucked up?
Nah, it survived.
It survived.
The 60 survived too.
Survived. Shout out to Roger Lynn for that.
Man, shout out to Roger Lynn and Lexus, man, because I always felt like, man, this was crazy. Nobody was hurt.
Yeah.
It was a well-made car because that was one of those moments I was like, and another moment, I was 17 and somebody had broken my house. And I was, doing my 1-2. Somebody had broken my house and I ended up getting a gun from my cousin. I was about to go do something stupid.
Ruin everything.
And I put the gun in my hoodie like that and shot myself in the hand.
Shot myself in the hand. By the way, bro.
Man.
It's like, hey, man, I got something. I got a path for you.
Yeah.
I'm about to go shoot somebody. I'm not letting you do that.
That was the first one. That was before the accident. But that time, that was really because I went to jail and came back home. My 60 was still sitting on the dresser.
Wow.
So my brother, me and my brother had to, go through that. But that 60 was sitting there and I was like, man, I'd never leave. I'll never leave you again. But that was one of the real moments right there. And then the second time was flipping the car, man. That was crazy. So
that's crazy.
I couldn't believe we survived. And just in general, man, like hip hop is one of them things where it's matured me. It gave me an outlet to feed my family, you know what I'm saying? And do this interview with you, you know what I mean? And share it to the world, like what I do, I'm pretty sure everybody that I grew up with, like, man, I remember that kid. I remember he was always on it. So I've been on it since forever, you know what I'm saying? But to be able to tell my story and, I feel like hip hop has saved my life in so many ways.
That's real shit.
Being able to go on tour the world, I never take it back for nothing. Man.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I feel like coming up too in the 90s, and we're gonna get into the little history of it. The infatuation of going to New York if you're in the surrounding areas.
For sure.
Were we more, I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to say I was infatuated coming from Philly because I felt like my only outlet to music was going to New York. I would go hang out posters in New York. I would do anything to be close to Def Jam or any of these places to get a placement. Being from Ohio, which is a hop, skip, and a jump from New York, Did you feel like that's where you needed to be to start your career? I know that everybody, if you're Boston, Connecticut, from 95 to about 2005, it was New York. I never even heard LA.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? It was all New York.
No,
Did you
LA
love
was
traveling and do it?
for sure. Like New York was the spot. Like I feel like I was a New York dude at heart. You know what I'm saying? Like I had family from Queens, so I was familiar with New York. So in '86, I got to spend the summer in Queens, and that was like, that was kind of when break and fizzed out anyway. So Cass was either DJing and rapping and making beats, or the OGs was just hustling, but everybody that came from the breaking era, started DJing and rapping. So right at like '86, we got a chance to go to Queens. My aunt's from Queens, and I spent the whole summer there, and it changed my life as well, because that's right when Eric B. and Rakim first dropped and BDP. So I was hearing Red Alert on the radio and Orange Juice Jones. Shout out to Orange Juice Jones, man. I saw you in the road. And him walking in the rain. Yeah, they played that joint all summer, man. And but that summer was so pivotal because it just confirmed, what was already in my heart. You know what I'm saying? But I got to witness it firsthand. Got back home, I hit the ground running, to make a long story short, once we got a chance, I had a homie that got me to New York, and the thing was, that was like the place to go, because it wasn't that far.
Right.
But ultimately, hip hop, was born in New York, so that was like, I started driving to New York by myself.
Damn.
I used to drive 11 hours by myself.
17, 18 years old? What?
Yep, 17, 18. Yeah. No, I wouldn't say 17. I would say 19. 19, yeah. 19, 96, 19.
Right.
I would drive to New York by myself. Once I figured out, people, just didn't really want to go, because it's a long drive, but,
right.
And then, I really wasn't I didn't really, back then, it's like, this was all concocted in my mind, man, everybody's not going to see your vision, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, man, we need to get to New York. After I got a taste of it, one of my homies got me to New York, because we had a group together, me and my man Lee. So he would go to New York and shop the demo, and I'll wait for him to come back and be like, man, what happened? You know what I'm saying? What, did you get the deal? So who you meet? But New York was the place to go. I actually got to go to New York in '94 at the New Music Seminar.
Wow.
So when Big and Craig Mack had the
Big Mac.
Yeah, we had. Yeah. But it was just always a dream to. That was the spot, man. New York I love New York for that.
Yeah, when I was coming back from New York, I think everybody in the neighborhood would just be sitting out there for me to get back and be like, so what you do?
Exactly.
The deal?
Same thing.
And I felt like I caught myself a couple times like, I talked to Jay-Z, I ran into this so, you know what I'm saying? I was looking for something to say because I got tired of being asked.
Yeah, that was the big thing. So once I got a taste of that, once cats started bullshitting around and didn't really want to, go, I'm like, well, I'm gonna just drive up myself. And this was after the accident. Once they got the deal, they was kind of, bullshitting around, and they was in Cali. They was already doing their thing, you know what I'm saying? So I made the beat that got them the deal, but I still hadn't got a chance to do my thing.
Yep.
They introduced me to Kweli. They met Kweli on a trip to New York and brought him back to Cincinnati.
Wow.
And the first thing I was like, I heard his demo. And to me, I was like, man, this just sounds like they made it already. And once they said he was available to work, I'm like, man, I got all these beats. Cass is bullshitting. But New York has always been the spot to go to. So once I got a taste of that, I started driving up. I used to drive 11 hours by myself in the MPV.
Right. Stay out there how long?
Few days at a time, and even before that, I would catch the Greyhound.
Dope.
Yeah, I would take the MPC 60, take the Greyhound in New York.
Say, fuck it, I'm out of here.
16 hours.
Best record store in New York at that time, early 2000s, what would you say?
You know what, to be honest, I didn't really shop. I didn't like to record shop in New York.
Word?
No.
Yo, you the first person.
A1 is probably the only one I would go to.
No rock and soul? No.
I've been there, yeah. But nothing too memorable.
So where'd you record shop?
I was record shop in Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yeah, my thing was to always try to find obscure records. Like we had like the crazy part about Cincinnati, we got everybody's records, we got Shake It records, but we would also have these antique stores, like just in random neighborhoods.
Yep.
And I remember this guy, man, wish I could see my guy, old white guy. He had like a 3-story antique spot, but it was full of records. And I just have to sift through them or whatever. But we would always have this random spots that I would dig in. That's where I got most of my records, like 90% of my records.
Wow.
I got a chance to dig in Chicago. The thing is, you know what it was about me? Like, I didn't want to have what everybody else had. I didn't want to have the typical
So you
records.
didn't go to New York because you knew everybody was shopping.
Yep.
I've
And then anything with plastic on it, I didn't really want it because I knew it was somebody that knew what they was listening to.
Yeah.
I just wanted to find stuff that nobody had. I was trick myself in that, like, nah, I want to find my own breaks. I want to find, you know, that was my thing. But I shot mostly in Cincinnati, mostly.
Word. Okay, so best studio in New York. Let's switch it to that.
Best
I'm
studio.
gonna jump out there. I'm gonna say Electric.
Electric Lady for sure.
I love Sony. Sony had maybe A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J,
Sony.
K room.
E room.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the E room was crazy. That little small E room was shit.
You know, what other joints were there at that time?
Chungking.
Chungking.
Unique.
I used to master at Chungking early.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was it. I used to get that CD like, yo.
Yeah. That Chungking. We mixed the blast at Chungking.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I think that was a Neve board or something in there. One of the rooms.
You were mixing your own records?
Some of them, not from the album. No, I didn't mix. I mixed the intro and the outro, but Troy Hightower mixed out most of the album. Yeah, like 90% of that.
Yeah, I used to love those studios, man. Electric Lady just had a feel, man. You see all the old videos about, you know, the making of D'Angelo's album.
Yeah.
All the way down to like your greatest artists and some of the current artists, like, you know, J. Cole, you know.
Right.
Jack Harlow's dead now. Like, you know, it's a space, man. When you walk in, it just captures the moment. Like,
yeah, this room kind of remind me of Electric Lady.
It does, bro.
Yeah.
I walked in here, I was like, oh, this has a feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I'm not used to in LA, you know,
right.
Having a lot of feelings. There's some vintage studios, but this one feels kind of like, I'm looking at the board over there. I'm like,
right.
Somebody know what
they're doing.
Man.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Shout out to my man Joe, man.
So first of all, I want to say you one of the pioneers, and I'm gonna go out there and we could argue about this in the comments if you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. That's crazy.
You started Neo Soul.
Nah.
I'm going out there to say that. I'm gonna say that because I felt like the beat tapes you were making, because you released some recently within the past couple of years. 93, 92.
Yeah. I was trying to show those.
95.
Yeah, when I was.
If you go back and listen to those things, a lot of those elements in those records were some things that people weren't doing. Then led to Neo Soul in the rap space.
Wow.
Then the Dal and Dre came in the R&B space. And then you had the Soul Aquarians. But I felt like you were the prodigal piece. You were the main piece in Neo Soul. How you feel about that statement?
Man, that's the first. That's a huge, man. Like, yeah, that's a huge perspective. You know, I never really get to talk to people as much as to tell me, you know, from that perspective. Like, you know, that was one of the reasons I put out the joints I was making when I was younger, because I wanted the people to know I was on that already.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
A lot of people.
And you talking about, yo,
yeah.
no, if you go back and listen to beat tapes,
yeah,
a lot of elements of that soul in there. But go ahead,
And I just, you know, my thing was natural soul. I come from a soul town, you know, being around it. My influences was most definitely, you know, the greats, DJ Premier, Pete Rock. They taught me how to hear that. You know, hear what I was trying to get across. Yeah, for sure. I got to give it up to, you know, Soul Brother #1, Pete Rock, and all the greats, man. Eric Sermon, you know, Large Professor, Showbiz, you know, man, all Diamond D. I don't really know how to take that because I think, you know, just hearing that, it makes me want to look at myself from the outside looking in, because I'm genuine to it. And a lot of people want to discredit me and try to give my credit to somebody else, you know, or say they don't understand how true it is when it comes, especially coming from Cincinnati, how to do everything from scratch.
But and the reason I'm saying this because you're one of the one-man army producers. And what I mean is a lot of people, like if you think about the native tongues, you think about Soul Aquarians, it was a group of people.
All right.
Every time I saw the production, it was Hi-Tek. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, man, this motherfucker beat so good. I wonder if he got perfect pitch. Like, I wonder if he hear, like, you know, my bass lines will be way off. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, how does shit just, like, it just, the drums was tuned the right way. The chords you used to match the samples. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of the synth sounds. I'm like, how's he hearing that? Why does it sound like it was in the sample? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I felt like that's where neo soul derived because it was starting out as soul kind of jazz mix.
Wow, bro. Yo, I'm super humble about you saying that. Like, for real, if that's the real perspective. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I learned from the best, man. Like I said, my mentors is everybody that came before me, you know. But I am one of the few that didn't have any mentors like that. Like, Kanye had no ID.
Yep.
You know, Dilla had Tip.
One man army. That's
You
what I'm saying.
know, man, most of the guys, a lot of the people that I know in our current peers, they came up. They had people current right there with them to give them a second opinion on what they was doing.
Right.
I never had that. I had to do everything from like the outside looking in. I never had a Jermaine Dupri.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
I ain't no soul. I ain't nobody. I'm thugging it. You know?
Yeah, I never had that, man, and that's kind of real my hunger come from. And if you notice like a lot of my drums, like you never hear me use typical breaks. Like my whole thing, and that wasn't done on purpose.
I thought you was making them shits.
I was making them.
I'm looking for the records to find what you're using. I'm sound crazy. I'm over here. I'm like, where are these snares?
I'm snatching snares and kicks from different records and like making them, putting them together. But you know, a lot of people that I looked up to, like I didn't realize how many loops they was actually finding. I didn't realize that break records existed like that. I mean, not breaks existed. Like, oh shit, that's a real loop. You know what I mean? So I was like doing it by default, I was trying to make my own breaks. Yeah. So that was my thing. That's kind of how I developed my sound, like just making my own drums. You know what I mean? Yeah, trying to like make my own breaks because I didn't, you know, honestly, I was limited to my digging.
Yeah.
I would dig mostly in Cincinnati, so I would just use what I had, you know.
Yeah. Coming up too, of course, you had conversations with Dilla, right?
Yeah.
Y'all first time meeting each other. What was that conversation like?
It was short. Like, you know, me and Dilla's first conversation was in Electric Lady.
Okay.
And he was in the basement on the lower level working with Common on Like Water for Chocolate album. Mm-hmm. And me and Qua was working on Train of Thought in the same building at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep. We didn't have too much of a conversation. He was like on the phone. I remember coming the hallway. I didn't really get to really chop it up with him like I wanted to. Yeah. Cause it was crazy is me and Dilla I would get the comparisons to Dilla way before when we were shopping demos.
Yeah.
In New York. So me and Qua, when he first brought me to Brooklyn, there was a guy by the name of Beat Scott.
Yeah, I know.
And you know B. Scott?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
How's he doing? Is he still around?
I haven't seen him in a minute, but
Yeah.
I do.
Okay. I just remember him telling me, he was like, this was like 95, 96. He was like, man, Tip got this guy, like, they got this young cat from Detroit. He's like, man, y'all sound a lot alike, except he used more reverb. That's what he said. And I can only assume that's who he was talking about. As time went past,
yeah,
I can imagine that's who he was talking about.
Yeah.
But me and Dilla, we never really got to chop it up much. But in 2002, he reached out to me and he invited me up to Detroit to come work with him. He was doing his solo album, the album that came out. It was the Diary album.
Yep.
But he had plotted on that way back in 2002. So most of those records was ideas from
the one he was signed to MCA, right?
Yeah. We both had deals with MCA at the time.
Got you.
And he invited me to Detroit, and I was amped, you know, and because you know ultimately like Dilla's that's the dude. Like I always felt like we had this connection because we from the Midwest, and then we had that same Midwest approach,
the thought process.
Thought process, and like you know, and same influences, you know what I'm saying? And then it's like Cincinnati and Detroit.
Yeah.
Versions of what we are influenced by, you know what I mean? But I could always, it's, coming out the Midwest, it's like a dream to make it to New York and be accepted,
Yeah.
and once people realize that you got something, then we even put it on them even more, you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I got this to offer. But when he invited me to Detroit, I took a drive, me and my homie D, we drove to Detroit. I called myself knowing how to get to Detroit, right?
Yeah.
It really is just a 75 north shot. I take 71 north, right? I drive all the way to Cleveland, get to Cleveland and call Dilla. And Dilla, I say, Dilla, man, I drove all the way to fucking Cleveland.
I'm going home so
This was before GPS, man. No GPS. It's all like.
What was the map they used to give you in the rental
Map
car?
West.
This is the map.
Yeah. So he waited on me, man. He said, I said, man, should I still come? So I just drove across whatever, to Detroit and took another 4 hours.
Right.
But he waited on me,
Yeah.
got in the studio, and we just talked for a minute and just a casual conversation. He just really wanted to hear some beats, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And played a few joints. And the 2 joints that you hear on the Diary album, like, when I left the studio that day, I was kind of, my thing was I wasn't really sure if he really liked the beats because I felt like I kind of made him wait too long. I'm like, man, I wasn't sure. But really, he wasn't even tripping. Like, he was just happy I came through, you know what I'm saying? I was just as happy to be there, you know what I mean?
You had the game in the chokehold. So I think waiting was like, yeah, I'm going to wait for these beats.
Man, and that's the guy, man. I'm like, hearing his kicks and snares, and I'm like, man, Dilla's that, he helped keep that battery in your back. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was my guy. And because I could relate to him so much because he was from right up the street. And we always had that Midwest thing to prove, Same with Kanye coming out of Chicago. It's like a Midwest thing, They can't forget Midwest wasn't always on the map like that.
Yep.
So I could always relate to them, like that in that way, But man, Dilla was like, he was super cool. You know what I'm saying? He was super cool and open to, what I had. And I played the 2 joints and he was like, yeah, he got late. It took me like 8 hours to get there. So when I left, I didn't talk to him. Maybe in passing, we had a couple of show dates we had. I seen him. But I didn't even realize he had recorded the joints.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And the dude, what's his name? Egon had hit me.
Okay.
And said, yo, we want to finish these joints, we'll reach out to Snoop and Cocaine, because that's what Dilla told me. One of the joints, he's like, I want to get Cocaine on this and Snoop. And, we actually made it happen, but to hear him, and he gave me a shout out on the record. So, I mean, to me, like, we always sensitive to our music. And those shout outs and shit like that mean a lot.
Everything.
Especially from our peers, you know what I mean?
Everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to clump this question up because these people mean a lot to you, and I know some of them had influence and helped you get to the next level. Talib Kweli, Mos Def, Dave Chappelle. That era, what did it mean to you?
Man, that means everything for real. They're my brothers right there. They my big brothers, but like right there. They not that much older than me. You know what I'm saying? They like a year and a half.
Brothers.
Big little brothers, especially being advanced,
Yeah.
Coming out the Natty, I didn't know as much as them. Them dudes was New York. They done traveled a lot already.
Yeah.
So even when I first hooked up with Quad, like, the first thing was like, I had a lot to offer for sure. For one, New York dudes don't have cars.
Yeah, they don't.
So I had my car.
Moving
I was able to move around. I had the beats. I had the studio. I had a drum machine.
Right.
New York cats didn't really have that, but
Nah.
But when I did get there, he was able to, I played my part, he played, but he was able to show me around New York, you know what I mean, and introduce me to his friends, which was Mos and and a lot of other people, and that alone, coming out the hood and the Natty and just coming from scratch, that elevated me, you know what I mean? Like what you hear on the records now, we wasn't at that point yet, but meeting him and Mos, it made me go back in my bag. Like all those records that. Those the beats, the instrumentals that I put out from those years, 93, 94. They was taking those beats and making songs.
Yep.
And it was just it kind of really re-inspired me. It gave me a new outlook on, like, man, don't just let beats go to waste.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really more about the songwriter. The songwriter, like, they could take any beat. If he's a good songwriter, he or she gonna put the vision on it and bring it to life.
Right.
Then it further influences me to put sprinkles on it and just bring it to a bigger production. You know what I'm saying? So I learned when I'm meeting them, like, they took me around the world when I didn't even know nothing about a passport. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I was in Japan and London early, Black Star promo tour. We was in London.
Crazy.
We went to Cuba and Japan. And that was just, all of that shit just elevated my confidence coming out of Cincinnati. So that's my perspective. Coming out of the Natty, that was like a thing, hooking up with these brothers. I always felt like that it was definitely God's plan.
Facts.
You know what I mean? Facts. That was God's plan because I always feel like it ain't no coincidence that you could find brothers that could write and rhyme like that, but they need some beats. Like, y'all in fucking hip hop mecca. Y'all need beats? All right, I got something for y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they embraced me, you know what I'm saying, allowed me. And Dave, the thing about Dave, I think Kweli, he kind of vaguely knew him at the time, but we was in Electric Lady working. And we was working on Train of Thought. And Kweli said he had stepped outside. He seen Dave. They kind of knew each other in passing, but he invited Dave up to the studio. Dave, ever since Dave was hearing what we was working on, and ever since from that point, he would just, throughout the week, he'd just come bring some, smoke up, we kick it. And only really,
big hip hop fan.
I knew Dave, yeah, exactly. I knew Dave from like Half-Baked, but even before that, I remember Dave like on Star Search when I was a kid. I remember seeing him as a young comedian. I remember him, but Half-Baked, he hadn't really been the Dave we see today. He wasn't at that, that peak. And that's why I really appreciate that moment because I wasn't starstruck. It was more like the homie, like, man, he coming through. He got the good green, like he's smoking with it. He just enjoying our process.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then, he would take us to the comedy, I forget the comedy spot, like it was around not too far from Electric Lady.
Okay.
So he invited us to a couple of comedy shows and we get to see him work. He'd come back up to the studio. And then one day I was just like, man, I was like, can you do some impersonations for me, And he just hopped up like, hell yeah. He jumped in the booth like he couldn't wait, you know what I'm saying? And that's where you get the Nelson Mandela intro. Because I had asked him like, yo, can you do some impersonations for us?
That's hard.
And he did the Rick James, Nelson Mandela, and no, he didn't do. I was about to say Riddick. It was
James.
No, he did the Rick James though, but he Lennox Lewis. He didn't do Lennox Lewis. That was the real Lennox Lewis. Lennox came up to the studio.
Correct.
But yeah, the original question was like, but they played a pivotal role as brothers that we all helped each other, man. But
yeah.
Just that fast-paced New York is what I needed in my life and career,
Yeah.
just to give myself out, give me something to do, to get up out of the Natty. The Natty one, it was slow motion.
Yep. In one sentence, I'm going to make a left turn and I'm going to say a couple names in one sentence. You tell me what you learned from them. Raphael Sadiq, Master Splinter is what I call him. But Raphael Sadiq, what you learned from him in one sentence?
Bass lines.
I was wondering where you got the bass lines from. Raucous Records.
They gave me a platform. Yeah, platform for sure. My first platform.
So basically the sentence is, Raucous Records gave me a platform. That's the sentence.
Yeah, that's it.
Raphael Sadiq gave me bass line.
Yeah, in melody, but and, you know what it is?
He's Master Splinter.
I wouldn't say
that's all I gotta say.
I learned the bass lines from Raphael, but his bass lines is just so sick. Yes, like his melody, and he's just a great producer and musician, man. Like
one of the best.
One of the ills, man.
The best, bro.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre.
Perfection.
You learn perfection from Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
G-Unit.
Wow. G-Unit. Man, hip-hop.
Hip-hop.
I didn't learn hip-hop from
but you
G-Unit,
learned
but
it.
yeah,
It is
but
hip-hop.
it's hip-hop.
G-Unit
For
is
sure.
hip-hop. I wanted to land there because, again, more gold. I don't say the flowers, more gold in your area. I feel like 50 Cent, G-Unit, Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, the whole team, even Game, even D12, they love your beats the most. You've got the most placements, I feel, out of all the people on all those albums. And you got the best placements. If we think about Running, G-Unit, we talked about Best Friend, the D12 joint. At that time, were you giving them CDs or were they just hitting you like, come play me some beats?
Man, I gotta
He was landing on everything, bro.
I gotta give all the respect to Dr. Dre.
Rider music.
Dr. Dre.
Dr. Dre.
Dr. Dre. The way he had it set up was, I ended up, I connected with Dr. Dre through the Truth Hurts album. So I did a joint on the Truth Hurts album called Hollywood, and Dre rhymed on it. And the crazy part is that was like my introduction to Dre, because he heard the beat, but that was like, he was like, come on out and work, I remember being at the crib. Matter of fact, I had my little man right there on the four-wheeler. We was riding around. I get a call. It was Dre. And Dre asked me, what I thought about his verse on the Hollywood, and asked me, should he keep it? I was like, hell yeah. But I was honest, I think he really respected my opinion, because I would have been honest about it, you know what I mean?
That's right.
But and then you rhyming on the actual producer's beat, and he just wanted to, I just was really blown away by him asking me what I thought. But ultimately I was like, yeah, hell yeah, keep that. But I think I played a part with him keeping that verse on the record. So that was like, the Truth Hurts was like,
The segue to
that was a segue. And then I just kept delivering beats. And if you ask Dre, he felt like I made my best beats in Cincinnati. So I used to always be like, yo, like, man,
You trying to tell me to stay at the Natty?
yeah.
Come to LA. What you want me to do?
I was like, man, Dre, I'm trying to I need to come out here. I need to, he'll fly me out like for a couple of months at a time and just cook up. I made some joints out here.
Yeah.
But he always just be like, man, Tech, you go back to the Natty.
Damn. I'm trying to get out of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out the Natty.
Yeah, I always
That's
argue
all
with
I
LID
ever need.
about some shit. Every time I
Yeah.
get to making beats, he be like, these cool, but you make your best beats on the ASR. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about?
Yeah, man.
I feel you, but I can't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
The Truth Hurt.
bro, I'm like, bro, you gonna tell me to go back to Natty? I'm trying to be,
Yeah.
I'm in
I
Hollywood.
say, man, just set me up a studio
Record one.
over there in the corner. That's all I need is a spot. Just want to be up there. He was like, man, but them joints you be sending me from the crib. I was like, well, once you come out there, he's like, nigga, why would I come out there if you don't like being out there? That was like, so Dre was like, I would send packs to him.
Okay, he was just moving them around.
And he had the machine. And I think the trick is, I think people get a different perspective when they know who did the beat.
That's right.
So he would just have his badges and his go-tos. And it was genuine. He gave me the opportunity. I gotta give it all to Dre, because he was like, he would play them beats, but he wouldn't tell them it wasn't him. Or he wouldn't tell them who it was, But I think that helped their approach to the beat, because the shit is banging like a Dre beat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it helps them be like, but they know, like, I gotta kill this shit, But I think if you was to say it's a Hi-Tek beat, at the time, they might, maybe not. I don't know. That was my
was
perspective.
rapping on them. They knew Hi-Tek was doing it.
Yeah, you can't let Dre down at that time.
I mean, you
can't-
see a CD. I'm Lloyd Banks. You see a CD and it say Hi-Tek beats. I mean, the first couple that come on, I'm rapping on just off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Got
Word.
to, bro. You know
Man,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
Got to.
So I think at the time, so Dre was just playing joints and just, my shit was just landing.
They was landing.
It was landing, And like I said, I just got to give the credit to Dre, because he was actually playing them in the right moments for, giving me that opportunity to make those placements. And then that led up into, you know, me coming out, flying out months at a time and cooking up joints out here. Like I cooked up Rider Music and Best Friend out here.
Dope.
Yeah, a few other joints, you know what I'm saying? Just always back and forth. But the way they would get placed was Dre would just play them joints and them shits was landed. You know what I mean? And the Rider Music, Stevie Wonder sample. Like Dre was one of the only people that I would trust handing my multis to.
1000%. He's the
only person.
He's an engineer.
Yeah, Dre's the only person that I would trust. Just saying, hey, mix it. I know it's gonna sound dope.
Right.
And it was never far from where I had it.
Yeah.
It just was elevated.
Yeah.
Mix wise, clarity wise. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I always got it right. I never was like, it ain't right. You know. We actually got a chance to mix the G Unit intro with Dre. We did it. We mixed that together in Can-Am. Dre gave me, man, I could never pay him enough for the opportunity he gave me and to have me sounding like him. You know, it was a compliment to his legacy.
Right.
That's like an honor, straight up, one of the highest honors you could get in hip hop as a producer.
You
feel me?
Anything higher than that.
Yeah.
Financial, your first big record. You remember what the check was?
My first placement was with Royal Flush.
Oh,
I did.
Shout to Royal Flush, Queens.
I think that check was like $1,500. It was like $1,500, you know what I'm saying? But I used to drive to New York. Man, listen, I used to drive all the way to New York to try to get a check for the Mood records, for the group I was producing, Mood.
Yeah.
And this Royal Flush check. I drove there like 3 times only for the dude to tell me he didn't have my check. This was tough days, you know what I mean? But I finally get there and I got like a $3,000 check for like 10 beats, you know what I'm saying? But
a lot of money.
you know, so I went from you know, $1,500 a beat to, you know, once we got with Ruckus, they was even tight. I wasn't getting paid for beats. You know,
Come on, Ruckus.
Yeah, Ruckus wasn't trying to pay for no beats.
Billion artists.
They gave us deals and, you know, they was spending a lot of money, but they were just keeping the ball rolling, like to keep us working. That's what I liked about Ruckus. I liked the fact that it wasn't no stagnating the creative process.
Yep.
But when it came to the business, they was tight. You know what I'm saying? I was like, but I never really got like a certain like specific amount. Well, I would say I probably at a point in time, I probably like 30 G's at a time where
record.
Yeah, for like at a time where I was like, you know, probably getting like 10.
Yeah.
And got with the right manager at the time. He was like, man, you worth more than that. He was like, I'm gonna get you 30. I was like, yeah, right. You gonna give me 30?
Brought back that 30.
He got 30. I was a believer. I said, okay.
What I'm giving you.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was probably like the single at a time.
That's dope.
Yeah. And you know, I feel like I came in the game, got successful in the game at a weird time. Like 9/11 had happened. And at that time, I feel like a lot of the labels were scaling back. And a lot of the independents that were up under the majors were all folding.
Yep.
And I had just got my deal with my artist, Jonelle, with Def Jam.
Fire.
They was kind of on their way out, so I kind of got a bad hand. I got my deal with MCA. Everybody was over there from Ruckus went to MCA, and I had a solo album. I got like 600,000 from them. I got like $1 million from my homegirl. She only had one song. I got her signed off of one song. I would say 1.5 joints.
Hey man, it's a ticket.
Yeah, shout out to my man Kevin Lyles, man. I never forget that, man. Kevin put that bag in my pocket. Just
for start.
He believed in the project, and you know, it sucks that it never seen the light of day.
Right.
Because we was just up against the labels folding. You know what I'm saying? We was kind of lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
But I mean, 2002 was great, you know, and it was just coming in from all publishing checks, and you know, I had built a relationship with Snoop at the time. He was working on the Doggy Style All-Star album.
That's another person.
Yeah, shout out to Snoop, one of the
you out.
yeah, that's my brother, man. Like Snoop was like one of the, I don't know, man. He's one of the most pivotal people in my career too, because I mean, he always shouted me out on the record.
He sure did.
That's huge for a producer to get that shout out.
That's
You know, you know what that means. You know.
Couple more questions before we get into the creation. Anderson .Paak in one sentence.
Fresh.
Yeah. Dope.
Fresh.
Fresh.
Anderson is that dude.
It definitely is.
I like to see the younger artists embrace musicianship and hip hop at the same time. And,
Fire.
you know, it really, like when we did the record Come Down, Produce, it gave me that Black Star feeling again when we was doing it in the process of making the record.
Yeah.
It was going back and forth with ideas. But when he finalized his vocals and just to take a beat, because that was the only beat I sent him. I sent him that one beat because I really believed in it. I was like, yo, this is the one.
That's dope.
I'm not sending no other beats. Try this. He asked for a couple. I sent a couple, but it was just okay. But I was like, yo, that's the one. He hit me like a month later. He was like, yo, I'm working on that joint tonight. But when he started working on it, and the reason why I call him fresh is because it gave me that feeling I had when I was telling you, like when Mos and Kwa would take scrap beats and make them records.
Yep.
And it's up to the songwriter, you know.
Absolutely.
And that puts the new spark in the, you know, the producer, so you can add some sprinkles afterwards. But he was he gave me that old feeling, you know what I mean? I mean, he killed the track. I mean, I could imagine some other people that wouldn't have done the same track. I ain't gonna say no names, but nah, but you know, yeah, Anderson is fresh. You know, he really, like, I mean, we made a lot of money off that track.
That's right.
That we had like so many syncs, like, it was just everywhere.
It's still everywhere.
And the fact that you know, when you got a good record and you got a little push behind it, somebody that's out scouting for syncs, but when the record speaks for itself, it just makes it that much better.
A lot of movies.
And that was independent.
A lot of. I keep calling this because it's my man, Tech Jr. His style in rapping and being a musician, one sentence, what it mean to you?
Son.
Son God.
Son.
Son God.
He's my son.
How important is it for him to live a life and go out there and make a name for himself without having the cloud of my father did this historic and all these masterful pieces of work? Like,
I'm big on that. I'm big on not trying to show my way.
Okay.
Like, if anything, I kind of look over their shoulder. Like, if I hear a bass line out of key, I'm like, that's out of key. And I'm going to tell them why. You hear that? Hear that key? Press that key. Like, all right, boom, now I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? Next thing you know, I come back, it's right.
Yeah.
But I just try to be the guardrails. I really don't try to, you know, tell them what to do. I think it's very important for them to find themselves, you know,
That's right.
period, and just
That's
in
right.
general.
That's right.
They already got the shadow of being spoiled, you know, because a lot of our ideas come from not having.
That's right.
You know, like
right.
being in the ghetto created hip hop.
Yeah, up against the lot.
Yeah, you know, I think that was the trick of, that was like probably the biggest trick they probably have done in today's generation is give cats money that hadn't worked hard for it.
Right.
And a lot of these artists just getting money off of one song.
That's right.
You know, they didn't have
In
that.
and out of the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then, you know, not even having the education to what to do with the money, you know what I mean? But anyway, I think it's real important, man. Like, you know, I really don't try to cast that shadow. And I think the way I raised them, they kind of feel that anyway. They kind of. Shout out to T.I., man. I love what his sons are doing.
Yeah, he killing
it.
Yeah, he making a family out of it.
Man, yeah. What's the son that played the guitar now?
Buddy Red.
Buddy Red is super dope. And Damani?
And Damani.
Damani's crazy.
Like, crazy. What else?
Yeah.
Last question before we get into it. The weapon of choice is probably what? The 60 or the 3000 MPC?
Just the MPCs in general.
All of them.
Yeah, the 60, the 61, 62. No, not all of them. Just the 60, 62, 3000.
How about 2000?
No 2000. I was anti-2000.
Anti-2000.
Yeah.
How about the ASR?
I'm jealous of the ASR. I'm very jealous of the ASR. that I couldn't get that sound, you know, from, I think Timbaland was using that at the time,
Yeah.
you know, Kanye and Knots and just all the guys. It's weird that I know when I hear it.
Yeah.
It's weird because I just, you know, I was a time where I could like point out drum machines. I could listen to a beat and be like, I tell you what drum machine it was.
Crazy. I could do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'd be telling people like, yep, he did that.
You could tell what it was.
Yeah, just the sound.
And at the time, the reason why I didn't get into the 2000s is because it was too punchy. And I didn't really had choppier sound.
Yep.
But yeah, the 60, 62, and the 3000 was my choice, but I'm jealous of the ASR. I love the ASR sound, man. I never really got to mess with it. And then by the time you like get so used to those pads, you kind of like, far as making beats on keys, I'm like, nah, I can't really even feel it, you know.
Yeah.
And I tried a 12, but by the time I got my hands on the 12, I was so spoiled by the sample time on the 60.
Facts.
You know.
Yeah, the 12, you got 12 seconds, really.
Yeah, you got
2
that's
seconds.
it. That's what it is. Yeah, like, yeah, but man, definitely, man, the ASR is crazy. I see cats pulling them out. Like we was talking earlier, they pull them back out.
They all over the place now.
Yeah, it's a certain little thing that has going on.
Yeah. Take a walk with us, man. It's the GOAT Farm with the GOAT. Hi-Tek, Don Cannon, BackTrak. Like I said earlier, man, you got about 10, 12 of my favorite records. So we came here just to see the remaking of a few. I'm not going to name them because, you know, this is a surprise. When you hear it, we're going to play Name That Tune. Y'all going to guess what it is. In my hand, I have a classic or a tone. This is my favorite needle, my first needle too. And this is the next level of that, professional with the Technique 12. The importance of the Technique 12 when you were sampled versus any other joint.
Yeah.
Is there something that you loved about this turntable?
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, when I first got my hands on the Gemini, the belt drive, I mean, I couldn't wait to
go to the direct.
Yeah, I was a time I actually tried to like break into this club to get these turntables, and I was like 13. I wanted them so bad that yeah, 1200 is special, man. They still hold their value for a reason, you know what I mean? Yeah, 1200.
They go for a lot of money now.
They probably even raised up, man. Price and raised.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I wanted a pair of 12s when I'm so bad.
Me too. I saved up so many.
I still got the
first sold a bag of weed. Listen, I don't want no trouble. I sold a bag of weed they didn't want.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
We would do anything for the good, man. We was trying to get our hands on them shits, right?
Yeah, so we got the new mark. We got the MPC 3000. This is a specialty. You have it decked out from Forrat.
Yes.
Right.
Shout out to Bruce Forrat, man, my guy, man. Bruce, what up?
Forrat, we talked about him on other shows. He was the customizer of all machines. He also could fix stuff. He knew everything about mic tubes. He knew everything about machines, how to fix your, machine. Some people was traveling and broke their machine. He could fix it. If you wanted candy paint, you wanted wood grain. Wood grain was the popular thing. He had that locked and loaded. And the designer, the Louis Vuitton. I think that was Quick that had the Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, I think so.
Or Eva Jazzy Faye. One of them had that, the Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, I think Quick kind of looked just like mine.
Yeah.
The one I seen on the Instagram, I think I seen this a couple of times. I think it looked just about like mine.
Yeah, and then we have Ironworks. We got the board back there, a lot of vintage equipment. He got an 88. We had seen that on there. Drum set. Let's get into this sample and play this. And without us telling, let's just take a piece of it so we can, talk through it. All right. Let's see if they get where we going with this episode.
Let's see what we got. So one day I'm digging through the crates, I come upon this record and I hear this melody in the back. And I'm like, man, this is pre-stem. So, everybody's so spoiled now with these stems. So I'm like, I worked with a singer by the name of Dion at the time.
Yep.
And I hear these vocals in the back. I'm like, yo, D, we gotta try to re-record these vocals and improvise on it. It's coming up here soon. But just the melody caught me instantly.
Hold up, DJ, bring that back, bring that back, bring that back, bring that back. I don't know if they know, man. I don't know if they know. It's Name That Tune.
There we go.
Yeah. So it was just that little piece.
Then
that's the only little piece you wanted.
That vocal stab right there. That their vocal chorus that's what I wanted. That was really like a style of mine, to be honest. Like since the blast,
Yeah.
I liked vocals, and I wanted to tweak vocals to make them sound like instruments in a sense.
Wow.
You know, instead of playing the keys, like allow the vocal to be the instrument.
Facts.
That was my thing.
Facts.
So like everybody know how I flip the blast. Not everybody, but if you don't, it's on YouTube. But vocals like always stood out. Certain melodic vocals stood out to
That's
me.
dope.
Try to
Yeah.
flip them.
I
But
was
that's
thought
what I
that-
was hearing
I
on.
love vocals.
Yeah, I was hearing that. You know, like I said, pre-stem.
Yeah. You had Dion redo it because you ain't had a
Yeah, I had Dion redo it. Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, when I was working on stuff, the ASR used to have a left, right, and stereo.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I turned it right, it would take all the sounds out, almost like a stem, or turn it to the
Oh.
left, depending on how I sampled
Like
it.
phase it out or something.
Yeah, it would phase out my bass line on one side. I get
Damn.
vocals on the opposite side,
Yeah.
depending on how the record was recorded.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you had Dion redo the vocals, right?
Yeah.
But did in your mindset, do you was like, were you working on a project, or were you thinking like, okay, I just need a new beat or whatever, or you was like, yo, I need a pack for somebody.
A little bit of both. Like always working project in my mind.
Yep.
But at the time I was in house with Dr. Dre at the
Gotcha.
time.
Okay.
Do some stuff that I knew the camp would like. And just really, to be honest, like ever since from the time I got that Dre acknowledgement, it just took me to a whole nother level. Because sometimes all you need is that acknowledgement.
That's it.
Somebody like Dre to say, man, you on the something.
That's the battery in your back.
Yeah, so I'm like,
Bet.
man, let me compliment what he would, and that was it. Like, and then naturally, like, digging through the crates is, you know how it is. You hear something, your ears point up. It's like that's it, and then
Got one.
and it's not always really like able to be flipped the way you want to. Cause trust me, if it was open, I wouldn't have had Dion really sing it over. You know what I mean? So I was like, yo, we got to get this no matter what.
Yeah.
And it was just only right, man. I was like, man, this is it. So but you know what? Now that I remember, I was actually working on his project. I was working on Dion's project.
Okay, gotcha.
And it was actually be a song for him. We were just in the lab working in general. I was digging through the crates, looking for stuff. That's what it was.
Okay,
And initially it was a song for him.
dope.
Yeah.
Let's get into what he resung of that sample. So it was the first thing you did?
Yeah.
So I didn't get into this process with you. Do you start with the sample first, or you start with drums?
I think in this case, I started with the drums.
Okay, so
I started with the sample. The sample inspired, you know what I mean? So I was like, all right, what type of drum pattern I'm gonna do, you know what I mean? So
let's start with the reprogramming on that. What part you did first?
So it was like, this shit is straight out the
It didn't have a
3000, you know what I'm saying?
Tinkle mix on it, but
It's straight out the three.
this is the core.
Yeah, got to, the kick is a little thin and shit right
It's the
now,
core.
but got the snare.
Layer and drums, huh?
Yeah, layering some drums, some kicks and snares stacked up. Yeah. So basically, I just was like, this is just the pattern in my head. I'm hearing it like, Then programmed it, Let me see where we at.
You think when you're programming this, they're doing that extra kick, that's making it giving a real drum feel?
Yeah.
That the lower kick is under.
Yeah, velocity changes. A lot of producers don't understand velocity changes.
Yeah.
Help give it a better feel.
Right.
And velocity changes meaning like sometimes the kick is lower, sometimes the kick is higher. It gives it a little fluctuation in the track. And I learned that just from the school of hard knocks, you know what I'm saying?
Facts.
And just and honestly, I learned it in an honest way because I was trying to mimic almost what I was inspired by.
Right.
And trying to get that feel of a natural drummer.
Right.
So that was the thing, And then I got the
The second little stab, that's from the record?
Yep, that's from the record. So if you hear that,
That is crazy.
There we go back.
And did you use that stab because he couldn't hit that note, or you just thought it needed that texture?
It needed that texture. You know it. You already know. Like it needed
the texture.
It needed the texture. Like although I had the live vocals, I re-recorded them. I mean, improvised on what was there, but I needed that sample feel.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and incorporated. It's weird how it comes together too. Like, cause it was like only right. And if you hear, let me see.
That long oak switch you can't buy yourself. When one of us would feel it, all of us would cry, oh, mama.
You know what I'm saying?
Got to live for today, cause tomorrow ain't promised to me.
Can't get there.
Don't just want a piece, I want my whole destiny.
That's the texture right there.
Texture. And then the bass line was. This is before I added all the synths, like.
And the Sims came from Motif, right?
Yeah, the synths came from the Motif 6, the MS 2000.
Okay.
The Korg and MS
But this is
2000.
when Dr. Dre told you to go back to the Natty, or you was in LA.
Yeah, this was one of them send back to the natty days. Like it just
He
made
might
me,
be right,
It just
bro.
made me hungry, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he might be right.
And he was right. I ain't gonna lie, he was totally right. Cause I never really could catch a total vibe
Yeah, you was out.
out of LA, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause I'm out of my. So when I'm at home and I'm at that, you got all your weapons. It's like you got all your chemistry. You know, you already know you got your records over here. You got shit you might have heard from a snare that you might have heard in a crate that you gonna use later on, a kick snare. So that's kind of like when you, and then you in your own, no type of distractions.
Right.
So you in your home environment, but ultimately, you know, if I had my own studio in LA, it would have been probably about the same.
Right.
You know, but ain't that like the home front?
The bass lines.
Yeah.
Was it a sample bass line, or you played it, or it's something you took out of keyboard?
So without giving up all the salt,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? I would always play my bass lines like straight from an MPC.
Right.
I just had one line. I just all play, you know.
It's that perfect pitch shit, man. That's what I don't like, man. My shit I would have never, figured that out.
Yeah, I played all the bass lines. Like most of the bass lines I played with from the MP.
And when you're doing the bass lines, do you think about who was the illest bass line person that you could think about, like somebody playing a bass? Because I noticed when you're hitting the pads, you're not holding them down to go. It's like
Oh yeah, there's no slide.
doo-doo.
Yeah,
It's almost like somebody sitting there playing it.
right.
Are you thinking about that, or is that just something you're used to?
You know, somebody had to tell me like, man, you like your bass lines is. And me, I would just got used to doing it. That's what it was. After I did it first time, it's like, and if you think about it, like the way I play my basses is more like a lead.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a background bass line. It's just like, it's more of like a lead, it's talking.
Yeah.
You know, like you listen to the blast bass lines like boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom. Like bass players don't even play like that.
That's what I'm saying.
know what I'm
Like,
saying? So-
where did that come from? That's how I said that birthed the whole nation.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I learned from the best. I was inspired by the best from Pete Rock and just trying to do what I'm hearing in my head, so to say.
Right.
But definitely, Boosie Collins is like one of the best bass players I know, personally. But the texture that you get from an MP when you sampling the bass and playing it out the MP is nothing like it. It's like,
Fact.
yeah, so I never really had an approach. I just kind of, once I started doing it, I got used to doing it. And then I didn't realize that I was playing it like as a lead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like a texture. I do that sometimes, but a lot of times, in that sort of era, I would like play the bass lines as if it was like a guitar, so to say.
It sound like it. This is,
Yeah.
what song is this?
This is Running by the Game.
Running by the
Running by the Game.
How
So
did this happen?
So I was digging in the crates, heard the vocal, had Dion sing. I was like, yo, sing this, and you're gonna actually was working on a project for him, working on his album. I'm not really sure if he was signed to Aftermath at the time
Yeah.
or not, but we was trying to get signed. I was trying to get him signed. So we was just working on joints.
Got you.
But I think it was like trying to get signed to, actually it was, because this was like this was before, he didn't even get a feature on the Games album. He didn't get a feature credit. It was just like a sample. People thought it was a sample, you know what I mean? The way I intentionally wanted it to sound like that. I didn't want it to sound like a big R&B vocal. But I was working on this record for Dion, and that hook that you hear is like
Got to live for today, 'cause tomorrow ain't promised to me.
that was actually
Don't just want
his
I want my whole
verse.
destiny.
Get the fuck out of
This was the top of his verse. You know, this is the thing when it comes to production. Like, he actually didn't even hear that it sound like a hook.
Speak on it.
I kept listening to it, you know, trying to tweak it or whatever, but he was like writing the chorus or something. We on break, I'm playing, I'm like, man, that's a hook. I'm like, we can't even finish this joint. This is it. This is out of here, bro. Like, you know, basically I turned the verse into a hook. So that's what that is you hear.
Got to live for today, 'cause tomorrow ain't promised
That's
to
his
me.
verse. In his mind, that's a
Don't
verse.
just want a piece. I want my whole destiny.
I forget, you know, I got a version of him finishing the verse or whatever, but yeah, I took his verse and chopped it up and made a hook, basically.
And then you sent this to Dre,
Yes. Sent it to Dre.
and was you like, yo, I got one, I'm about to send it to you right now, or you was just like, yo, I got some joints?
Nah, basically, I gave him this joint, the G on the intro,
Which is insane.
the Get in My Car on 50 album.
Yeah.
I gave him like, all those joints was on the same beat CD. Yeah, those joints was all on the same. I made them around the same time. Yeah, they use all of them.
And at that time, how many beats were you making a day at that point?
To be honest, I'm a slow producer.
Okay.
I don't really make them fast. Like, once I get something, I try to perfect it.
Right.
And I get into orchestration mode. Like, I want to make it a record. Like, that's why them shits be sticking.
Talk
Come on,
shit.
come on,
Talk
cat.
that shit. Talk
I feel them
that
shits
shit.
be sticking, man. Like, I wanna. It's more than just a beat. To me, it's more than just a beat. It's an orchestration. It's
Yeah, that's right.
something that's gonna be there forever. That's just like, I can't. Cause my thing is, you may not feel that way again.
Yeah.
You may not feel the full feeling of it. Or at least you got to get it to a point where you can come back to it the next day.
That's right.
But if you just like, that's just a little, you know, my thing is, if I got something, I'm gonna try to make it an orchestration and make it be forever.
That's right.
So that definitely, like, so I'm kind of like, I don't really make a lot of beats a day, but once I capture something, I try to like perfect it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with Dion, that was kind of almost like your first artist, right? Like a singer artist or something like
Nah,
that.
not my first. Jonelle was my
Okay.
first artist that got signed. She got signed to Def Jam off of the record I produced called Round and Round.
So he
on
was
my first album.
he was just your Robin on the collaboration tip.
Yeah, he started off as that. I wanted him to be, you know, I tried to get him to, because he was a great singer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Great artist in the making.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Great voice, man, super smooth. Like, I used to say he was like another Marvin Gaye type of special voice.
I can hear it.
Guy was true.
I can hear
And I'm not really, honestly, I never seen myself producing male vocals. I always liked the female vocals.
Yep.
So like the Round and Round joint, I spent so much time doing that, I was stuck in like female vocal production. And when I was introduced to him by a good friend of mine, he had played me, and I caught it right away. I was like, man, he doesn't have that aggravating R&B, male R&B voice. You know, I thought he had this smooth, controlled tone. And I was like, man, like, you know, once I heard it, I was like, man, get him in the studio. So at the time I was doing like a talent show for the community in Cincinnati. And I put him in the show because I knew about him. I was like, man, if you win this show, I'm gonna work with you.
Yeah.
And the crowd, you know what I mean, judged him, and they was like, "That's the dude."
Yeah.
So I got him in the studio. I gave him a track, man. He wrote full records, and he wrote a couple full records. I was like, man, this dude is incredible. So long story short, that was like in 2003. I just started working with him, you know, just trying to coach him up because, you know, singing on hip hop, innovative tracks is different to a real structured R&B artist.
Yeah.
They not really hearing what I'm hearing because ultimately it's about taking it to the next level. You know, we can all, not all, but out of the R&B scene, they can make those typical R&B records.
Facts.
You know,
Facts.
but when you're trying to make like something that is still R&B, but it's edgy, hip hop edgy, a producer really has to work with them, unless he already got it like that.
Yeah.
But I was keeping him out of that Boys to Men world and bringing him to, you know, Curtis and,
You're right.
and
Marvin.
Marvin.
Entertainment.
Yeah.
Out the door.
So that was my thing, is just trying to, and then I end up like, we was in the studio so much, I end up like kind of using him as an instrument.
Yeah.
He would try anything. I'd be like, yo, try it, because a lot of people wouldn't get it. He started getting it, like, you know, he gave it a shot. Like with this, for instance, he was like, I was like, yo, sing that. And let's build that, yeah, and let's just do that, and let me sample it back into the MP.
Yeah.
And you know, he was with it, and we did a lot of that.
How long did it take you before you actually heard the full Game record done? And were you satisfied when you heard it? Or did you hear like, whoa, the mix is wild, crazy, fire? And then you was
That's a
like,
good
he
question.
went crazy, like.
That's a good ass question, man, because I was in Hawaii. I took a vacation.
Okay.
And I rushed to I don't know what store it was, but it might have been Half Book. What's the name of that? Half Books or something like that?
Oh, Half Books, yeah. That's Half Books.
It might have been a Half Book, because they got the headphones
Yep.
in there. The album had just dropped. And I played a couple of joints. And actually, on the intro, like, is an interlude that I provided, but I didn't get the credit for. It's a sample about the game. It's a vocal from a comedian. I forget his name, but
Okay.
we put that on the album. I submitted it to Dre, and he actually ended up using it
Dope.
for the intro. But listen to a few songs, and I skipped to my joint, and I kind of felt like it was a little
Lower than the rest?
yeah. Oh, and that was just me being critical of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had to get used to it, because I'm looking for that comparison, you know?
Yeah.
Because me, like, a lot of my drums and shit be sold from scratch.
Yeah.
You gotta mix them to make them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They not like pre-made, like no sample packs, none of that. You know, it's just like
One sample.
No, they're straight scratch, and then they, you know, once you put them through the SSL, like we tweaking them to make them bang.
Right.
But straight from the MP, you're not gonna even realize like them the same drums. But
Yeah.
but the first time I heard it, man, that was because that was like really my biggest first placement as far as Aftermath, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, True First record was that was definitely incredible. I think it kind of went under the radar, but Game had that thing that it was highly anticipated
Yeah.
at the time, coming off the G Unit. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
to make it to that stature, and on top of that, to have one of my artists be featured,
Facts.
you know, that was like a big thing.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, that was a big
Big thing. Yeah.
So just to hear it, don't get me wrong, I knew it was I had heard the record before it came out, but the master version, I was like, man, I made the record, like I made the album, and then I'm like over critiquing it, and I just shut it off like, they ain't mixed like nobody. My shit is different than theirs. I'm like, but I had to get used.
That was
to
just you though. Everybody
Yeah.
else, it probably was their favorite
Right.
song on that joint.
I had to get used to it. That was just me being critical, but yeah, definitely like I was super amped, man. That was a good time.
Yeah. So you got the zip drive right here, right?
Yeah.
What else is on that motherfucker?
I got some joints with it.
Let's see what else is on that joint.
Let's see.
Whoa. Fucking. Okay, so you put the gunshots in there.
Yeah.
Okay, even in the
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought they was on some gangster shit.
Right.
Put some gunshots in my shit.
Nah, I originally had a whole nother, I call this beat the Harlem Bounce. and I had a whole thing. I was trying to get, I don't know, I was hearing something totally different than what 50 did to it, but 50 took it to a whole nother level with it.
Yeah.
It's a simple beat, but
Yeah.
you know, but it was like he gave it that bounce. Like he did his thing. You know what I'm saying? Fifth know what he doing with the melodic tracks.
The majority of records, I knew you were sample influenced, but there was a lot that didn't have no samples.
Yeah, like
And I heard, I'm like, bro, he doing anything. He doing the samples, he doing the plays, he doing the replays. Like
this one in particular, I had a guitarist come in. It's so long ago, I forget his name. But I had him just doing a jam session, just come in playing whatever. Like it was like a 30 minutes worth of just him playing. Right. It's a lick I picked out of there. Like, where is it at? Let me see. Yeah, that was it right there.
So you went through 30 minutes.
I went through 30 minutes to take him just playing whatever, and I caught this. You got that? You could tell it's just like he kind of got the slide on the second. Was like,
yeah.
Let's see if I can find the sequence. That's it. That's another sequence. Sometimes you got like different sequences. Yeah. Until I like settled on one, you know.
The bass line. So you played the bass line?
Played the bass line on her. Yeah. Where's it at? I think this is. That's all MPC. Like, had a little drag on there. I play it all, take it off the quantize and just play it live.
So we always had these myths of like, we talked about Dilla, how he used to take two 2x4s and make his claps. Did you used to make claps on your own, like go on the mic and do some claps or, you know, hit? I know that Danger told us about the junkyard. The junkyard was somewhere with him and with Timbaland would go in the back and just bang on shit.
Oh,
you know,
right.
Make all these drums, come back and loop them. Did you make your sounds or get into making sounds like?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I started just trying to do like, without even knowing Timbaland and a lot of them was doing that, I would just try to make rim, like, I make hi-hats out of a snare. It'd be like a thin ass snare and I would like
EQ it.
Take the low end out of it and make it be a hi-hat, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, like I would always try to make different sounds and, you know what I mean? Especially because when you go into the MP, you can further filter stuff and then make it sound like, you know, certain things, you know.
Word.
And some stuff is like, happened by accident.
Yep.
You know, but
that's
like
the magic. We all talk about that.
Yeah, the accident shit, but yeah.
And this record was what? What song was it?
This song is Get in My Car, about 50.
I get no picker lines, I stay on the ground, get in my car.
Yeah.
That was that shit. You made some
This is all original, so it's like no samples involved with this. Yeah.
Did Dre mix this or no?
I think Steve B might have mixed this one. Yeah. I think, yeah.
Okay. All right. What else we got in there? We got anything else?
Let me see.
Let's see if we got
These zips slow. They slow to low, but I got you. Let me see what I got. Oh, I got some other ones here. We got time?
Yeah.
You know, people be tripping. They be like, man, why you still got the zips? But I still ain't transferred them joints yet. So I've been like in the process. Bruce hooked me up with the SD card.
Yeah.
So I got the SD. So I just been, as I load them up, I'm just transferring so much stuff over. That's why I keep the zip on deck.
Yeah.
Like shit, you know, because to sit there and just do it all at one time,
yeah,
it's gonna take forever. But I just try to do it as I go.
This is a classic bag right here too. This is the instant replay bag.
Yeah, the instant replay
Carry
bag.
this on the road when I'm
Yeah,
jamming.
yeah, bro. I still
noticed
got it.
You writing on that? I'm like, how you get this?
Yeah,
This classic bag right here.
I
This
still
is-
got that
this is-
motherfucker there.
It was an instant replay, and this bag was something that we had a machine and we had all our songs and samples in there when we used to go on the show, because sometimes when I would DJ, songs would skip and the artist would look at me like, yo, bro, you fucking my show up. You know what I'm saying? So we had this cheat code. It was the instant replay, and it came with a lot of these sounds. It had the scream sounds in it. It was made for the radio. A lot of people on the radio used it, like all them like horns you hear, stuff like that on the radio. They used the instant replay because it was the thing that didn't mess up the most. It was good. So I know I had an instant replay. When I saw him pull this bag out with the zips, I'm like,
Yeah, you got
man, that's the one.
the 360 system.
systems, you know what I mean? Instant
Still got this
replay.
bag. I use it for.
Yeah, all my drops,
Still
my
use
radio
it.
drops.
It's a good bag.
Yeah, it's a great bag. Great bag.
Yeah, it came in handy. It's
Great bag.
Great That's
bag.
crazy. You know what? I used to rely on that instant replay so much, man. And one day it crashed on me on the show.
Mine's crashed too,
I
bro.
never thought it would crash.
Me neither. It was so reliable. A little scrappy. I was DJing at one time, and they started throwing beers and shit, and a beer got on there, and it just turned the whole shit off.
Oh man.
You know, he was turning the crowd up,
Yeah.
and it was like, head buster, and they was just throwing beer and shit. That shit went on there right in the middle of the song. He looking like, dog, what the fuck is up? I said, bro, that shit got zapped the fuck out. You know what I mean? Turned it off for a couple minutes.
Did it come back?
On. Yeah, it came back on. We had to start over though.
Wow.
Yo.
Yeah, my shit just started tripping, like glitching out of nowhere. I don't know. I was scared to use it ever since after that. Then that's when Serato kind of came into play. Hey.
Oh my God. Get me out of here. I'm gone. That's all I need. So that's the Stevie.
Yeah, it's a Stevie joint. That started off as a Dion idea, and we did a full song to it.
Okay.
And then I kept the instrument. I sent it to Dre, and I had slept on this one. I liked it. I was kind of in Dion mode, so I was like wanted to keep it for him. The next time I heard it, it was like almost mixed and ready to go.
Wow.
And I mean, the way they mixed the snare and then, the way they brought my shit up and mixed it. And,
Yeah.
Dre got a good relationship with Stevie, so it wasn't no problem to, to get it cleared or whatever. I think that was the case.
Yep.
But he had somebody re-sing it, though. It sounded better than the actual sample because it flowed over the track a little better.
Yeah.
But then I had some Dion vocals under the Stevie joints. So it was like... What's that? Yeah, this was like, let me see the original sequence. That's something else.
You got this. He like, oh shit, I got all the class.
That's there it is.
So I can see the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's Dion.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Dion. It was pretty much this is the original sequence right here. And that's all it was really. Oh, then I had the where's where that shit at?
That's insane.
Hold on, where's the what's that tempo? Was it Mighty One? Yeah, I got those in there. Let's see, what's this in there? Sneak. Vocals.
Hard.
Vocals on top of vocals.
Yeah. That was almost like that string that ran through the whole beat.
Yeah.
Yo, that's crazy, bro.
That's it. Then I had the bells in there. My thing is always just try to make it feel right. Anybody naturally, you want to make that shit feel right. But on the soul tip, it's like making the drums not be over here in the whatever the music, the instrumentation is over here. It's like try to make it sound like like a sample again.
Yep.
You know, that's kind of like how I try to mesh
Yep.
stuff together. You know.
Yeah, that's been my problem for a long time. I just heard boom bap, and all my drums would be so much louder than the sample.
Right.
But I realized they'd be like, bro, them drums is way too loud. Like I love the feel.
Yeah.
You know, track it out. Let me adjust it so I can, you know what I'm saying? But I
Right.
was just raw. I
Make it
didn't give a
blend.
fuck. I was like, bro. As I started
Yeah,
up
bang.
production and
Yeah.
I got my first couple chances to really
Mhm.
produce records out for Jeezy, I started noticing what I needed to do.
Gotcha.
You know, and you don't get that experience until you with a masterful artist and knowing how they doing. It's like, okay, I know how this pocket's supposed to be. I know how
Yeah.
to do this. I know how to get around the demo-itis of,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Because you know, they'll listen to the record a million times and then you'll lose. You can't even do nothing. They're like, bro, you overproducing. I'm like, no, I'm not. This is what I'm here for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in that day,
Right.
they wasn't riding around listening to the song all the time because they had probably one CD. I lost the fucking CD, man. That shit somewhere in the house. So now I forgot what it
Get
sounded
demo-itis,
So
right?
now you can sleep in for a week.
Right.
So this is what it sound like. I'm like, all right, cool, we back.
Yeah.
But now they'll listen to that shit on the phone 300-400
Be
times.
stuck
By the
with it.
time you try to, like the snare, I wanted to add a little glaze to it.
Yeah.
It's like, nah,
don't
it
do
don't
that.
sound the same.
Get
You know what I'm
demo-itis.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hate that.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right about that. It's like you can't even let them.
yeah.
That's why it's like, you know, a note to new producers, don't even submit nothing unless you happy with it first. You know, and don't oversprinkle. Don't oversprinkle and leave some room for the vocals, you know what I'm saying? But and don't get hyped. If somebody tell you they like something, don't get hyped about it. You know what I mean? Don't get too hyped and then start adding shit to it, because they gonna be like, nah, take that shit out. Oh, you know what's crazy? I rented a car when I got out here, right?
Yeah.
I left the whole bag in the truck when I returned it. This right here was lost for like a week.
Oh, I know you was hawking that down.
I didn't realize till I was coming back to the studio. So I'm like, damn, where the bag? I'm looking all around the crib. I'm like, I know I ain't leave it in the truck. Like, nah, I couldn't have done that. Man, I called the rental place. They like, yeah, we got it. I was,
You give him a tip?
hell no. You know why?
Yo,
Because I'm like, why you ain't call me?
bro.
Like, if I left something in the truck, y'all supposed to say, hey, you left, call me. You know what I'm saying? Don't you think they should have called me?
Yeah, for
They
sure.
should, yeah. They didn't even give me a call. Like, call them, let me know. Y'all just gonna leave I'll come in the office. They just got it in the drawer, just chilling.
Yeah.
I say, so y'all wasn't gonna say nothing until I said something.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I'm glad I ain't like leave town or some shit. Like,
yeah. I mean, my man's here. Like, anytime I went to the club and we got drunk when I was DJing back in the day, right?
Yeah.
I pull over to the gas station. I had them look up under the truck, make sure nobody putting nothing on no cameras, nothing on the truck, no we call them tracking devices. One time I had took my Porsche to the dealership. This ain't no stunt. Porsche is a Porsche. You know what I'm saying? I took the Porsche to get some service and they gave me a loaner car. And I was at the studio late, like 4 a.m. I had my jewelry on and shit. So on the way home, I'm gonna thug it out. I got 20 miles left on the car.
yeah.
That shit started going down to 0. So I was like, I gotta get some gas, right? But I'm in the loaner car. I take my jewelry off and put it in the glove compartment. Porsche got a key. I put the lock in there, I lock it,
Yeah.
right? I leave that bitch in there, bro. My iced out Audemars in there. I take the car back to go get my car. Forgot the watch was in that bitch, bro.
Yeah.
So I'm going, So I'm going down to the Bahamas for vacation. And I'm like, yo, where the fuck is my watch? I start spazzing on the plane. Shorty like, yo, no, it's gonna be all right. I say, yo, where's my watch? It's over with.
Right.
I'm pissed. We get to the Bahamas. I start calling the dealership. There's like, yeah, there's nothing in the glove compartment. I'm like, oh, they stole my shit too. I'm hot. At the time, at the Porsche dealership, I was cool with it. This dude was a fan, right? He was like, yo, bro, da-da-da. He was cool. So I called. His name was Tony. I said, Tony, yo, my watch was in that car. He's like, yo, they might have cleaned it. You know, every time we get the loaners back, we clean the cars and, I'm going to find out what's going on. He was like, he called me back like, I'm spazzing down in the Bahamas. My whole vacation, my vacation is over with. So I'm like,
Messed
fuck.
everything.
He wound up calling my phone. He like, so look, it's this guy that we loaned the car to after you, before they cleaned it.
That worked there?
Nah, it's a random dude that was just getting his car fixed. They gave him the loaner.
Right.
Right. Man, it's some crazy shit. So I wound up, he was like, I'm gonna find him, track him down and see if he got the watch. He track him down, dude has the watch. My man says, I know who watch this is, right? So Tony's like, yo, the dude want to speak to you. I'm like, all right, cool. I wound up calling the dude. At first I text him. I called the dude. I'm like, yo, you got my watch. What I need to do? Da, da, da. He picked up the phone. He's like, yo, bro, I don't know if you remember this, but we was in Cheesecake Factory one time, and I was having a badass day, and you gave me a $50 tip. I'm bringing that watch back to you whenever you're ready.
Damn,
Right? Ain't that crazy?
that's crazy.
Bro, I came home. He held the watch till I got back home. I wound up tipping Tony to track down the watch. I gave him like $200. I gave him my watch back about maybe 6 years later. Dude got the popping this podcast out. I went and did his show.
Man, ain't that good?
Ain't that crazy, bro?
Man, that's good. Hey, full circle.
Bro,
That's crazy.
shout out, my man. That's some
Yeah.
crazy shit. I said, yo, I'll
That's
never leave
crazy.
my shit in the car again. But, you know, I'm going to gas station, Porsche, late at night. I'm like, I'm about to hop out. I don't got no pistol. I'm out here. So just wrap your shit up.
It's easy to
My dumb
forget
ass
something
went in
like
the
that.
house. We got the whole shit.
Especially when you go to sleep on it, you wake up, your brain is like, your
So
memory
I
chipped.
understand how that felt.
Yeah,
Leaving that shit in the car.
yeah.
crazy.
I couldn't believe it, man. I'm like, I'm looking all for it and shit. I'm like, don't tell me I left. Because I remember it was like this little cubby pot, like hole in the back of the truck. So I sat it in there. But I'm like, I know, because I had the boys, you know, how my sons clean everything out, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I know I ain't just leave it in there. We just cleaned the shit out.
Bruh.
Bro, I called, they was like, yeah, we got it. So this joint right here, I produced for 50. It's called Best Friend. Shout out to Valerie Simpson for, you know, they killed us on the sample, but they killed us on the publishing, but yeah.
She wanted that bread. She's
Oh,
like,
man, what?
50 cents? Okay.
Yeah, 50 cents.
I got you.
Yeah. This is oh, that was a snare right there. Them homegrown snares, you know what I'm saying?
She gonna go crazy when she hear that. She gonna be like, no way.
Before the mix, before the strings, J.R. Rodham played the strings on it.
Shout out to J.R. Rob.
Yeah, shout out to J.R., man. Yeah, we killed it.
J.R. Rodham was a fool with them strings.
Yeah, crazy. So that was like pretty much something I heard.
Silly.
And at the time, I wasn't super familiar with that record.
Yeah,
I was just digging it.
Yeah.
I wasn't familiar.
You wasn't?
I wasn't.
Oh, yeah, when
I
I
wasn't.
heard-
So
I
I'm
mean,
kind
I-
of glad I wasn't in a
Yeah.
sense, because I kind of heard it in a different way.
Yeah.
I didn't
think my
know
mom
the song was
playing
that
these
popular
joints,
like
and I
that. Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
When I listen back, like I probably wouldn't even have did that today like that. You know what I mean? But that's that's what we. I had JR, I was like, yo, play that. He did
Oh,
it.
that should sound like the sample.
Yeah, that is the sample. That was the sample, but I had him replay the sample up on the, you know what I mean?
I'm just saying, when he played, it sounded like.
Oh yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you a crazy question. Out of all the joints you done, man, give me two of your favorites. Oh, that's it. Time with us.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Give me two of your favorites ever.
Two of my favorites, man, you know what? Like my beats of all time, of my whole catalog, I would say The Blast, of course,
Blasted.
because I was able to get my 12 on. It wasn't really 16, it was 12, you know.
That
Yeah.
arguably had the best verse.
Oh,
Yeah, because
you hear that? You hear that?
there were some times where motherfuckers would be like, don't cut it off, don't cut it off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was like, I had to get my shit off on that. It was like one of the ones I felt like, because I was, my thing with that, The Blast was like, that was one of them joints we had to like kind of not make Kweli do,
Yeah,
but it was like a forced idea.
yeah.
Like I had this sample and it actually says body, and it says body, and I was playing. Me and Corey was sitting we sitting in the truck one day because we like at the end of the album, so we like wrapping it up pretty much. But we knew we needed like one more joint.
Yeah.
So I came from the crib, met him out here in L.A., and me and Corey sitting in the truck because we always had to like plot on Quad sometimes just to, as manager and producer, we would like try to be, because Corey had a good ear, he had a good ear from a good perspective, not trying to be a producer, not trying to be a rapper.
Right.
He just would sprinkle idea,
Right.
sprinkle idea and keep us working in a sense and not get too lost in trying to, overthink.
Yeah.
But it was one of them times we was like put our heads together and was like, I was playing on tracks like, yo, this track got potential. While I'm playing it for him, and he was like, man, that just sound like it's saying Kweli. I was like, there it is. That's
Whose
it.
idea was to put the girls in the front? I can't pronounce his name.
That was Kweli idea.
Okay.
Yeah, he had some girls in the studio. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even meet them before, but there was something like he had did and mastered or something from like a jam set studio session he had.
Makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Another one. That was one.
I would say the G Unit intro.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah, that's
dun, dun, dun.
boom, boom. I was like, that was one of them joints I was really like trying to battle.
Insane, bro.
You know what I mean? That was like one of them battle beats, you know what I mean? Where I was like, yo, I'm about to serve him. I'm about to serve him, you know what I'm saying? I got to serve him. Like, that was one of them. Like, I'm like, because I wanted it to be intense. And I knew off top, I was like, if this got to be somebody's intro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just had that, like, had
Bucks
that intensity. And like, next thing I heard, oh man, Zach had called me and was like, man, you got 2 joints on the G Unit record. I was like, which ones? He was like, the one actually, the Eye for an Eye beat was, it was originally for Joe Beast, an artist that Dre had at the time from Pittsburgh. Yeah, it was for him, but they snatched that beat up. Same with, 50 infamous for making them records, man. Like, cause from what I heard, like the in the club joint was originally D12's beat.
Wow.
So, but that was one of them situations where the aftermath batch of beats, got pulled. And I didn't even, I was like, I didn't expect that to happen,
Just feed the beast.
Yeah, just feed it. You know what I'm saying? He was like, next thing you know, I'm hearing these joints, but I actually got the mix. Me and Dre both mixed. Me, Dre, and Steve B mixed that together. The G Unit intro.
That shit.
But I knew, I was like, yo, if this ain't somebody's intro, this got to be somebody's
I was
intro.
scared when that came on.
Yeah, this is somebody's intro.
I'm scared, nigga. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Who made that shit? I didn't even get to the credits yet. I was like, oh man, what to go back to that?
That was one of the ones, man, straight up. Like, I was like, man, it's a sensitive game with us as artists sometimes. You kind of unsure, but
Yeah.
when you get that stamp and somebody like, yo, this is, and then you hear the raps and like, they all killed it.
Right.
And it was exactly what I imagined it to be.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, and I think Exhibit wrote on that record too.
Wow.
He wrote the chorus.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he wrote the chorus on that joint.
Shout
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Exhibit.
shout out to Tracy
Exhibit.
Spencer. Tracy Spencer's on that.
Tracy
That's
Spencer,
her singing.
singer
Yeah,
from back in the day.
that's her singing. G Unit. That's Tracy Spencer.
Wow.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, bro.
Yeah, that's Tracy.
Wait till I
Spencer.
tell Keith about that.
Yeah.
He's gonna be like, no way. He used to love Tracy Spencer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's like,
That's
that
crazy.
was his light skin thing right there.
Yeah.
Lessons from Mr. Miyagi is Don Cannon.
Man, what?
I'm gonna play Karate Kid, but it's the man, the myth, the legend,
man.
Hi-Tech. You know what it is? BackTrak, baby.
Appreciate you, bro. You already know. Love.